How's it going, everyone? It's me, Xander, McMahon, Z Gaming, whatever you want to call me these days. I'm just kind of checking in with you guys and felt like I should try a new kind of content for once. This is going to be a video titled My Anime Experiment, and the title is very self-explanatory. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a story, so strap in. It's a long ride, but I think it's enjoyable. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. It took a lot of time for me to edit it together and get it ready for you guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. I'll talk to you guys soon. For now, enjoy the video. The day is December 31st, 2019, and the world is still moving at a normal pace. There I was with my family, enjoying the last hours of the past decade and reminiscing about our new goals and what's to come. I was never a huge fan of the whole idea of a New Year's resolution, but I figured I'd give it a go for once. My New Year's resolution wasn't to lose weight, to drink more water, to eat fewer fries, or make 100 new friends. Instead, I decided it was time for me to learn a third language. For those of you who aren't aware, I'm partially fluent in Spanish. I was the star student in my class in both Spanish 1 and 2, and I also utilized the language very often while I was working at a large retailer. In other words, Spanish was extremely helpful, and I enjoyed every bit of it. Spanish as a language was fun to learn, it was interesting to learn about the Mexican culture, and it was useful to know how to communicate with someone who might not be able to understand English, even if I could only communicate common terms like "Quiera una bolsa para tu ropa?" Sorry for the white accent. There came a point where I was infatuated with the idea of breaking the language barrier, but I didn't know where to start, what language to go to, or if I should just focus on becoming fully fluent in Spanish. In 2016, I watched my first anime. Rather, I watched my first modern anime. Freshman year was when I decided it was time to move past Pokemon Indigo League and take a look at an anime which was the big topic among the anime nerds in my school: Sword Art Online. Though the story was far from perfect, SAO fans at me in the comments, do it, I dare you. That was hardly the part that got me engrossed in anime. Rather, it was the technology and all the wondrous opportunities brought with it. That kind of technology became something of a high interest to me, but that's a rant for another time. What I mean to say is that Sword Art Online is what started my ride down the path of waifu wars, Megumi number 1, and which genre is superior, though it was a slow one. Watching Sword Art Online was dipping my toes into the philosophical ocean of content that I had hardly breached the surface of. Later down the road, I found more animes like Konosuba, Ouran High School Host Club, Goblin Slayer, Love, Chunibyo and Other Delusions, and so many more until the point where I'm at now. In January 2020, when classes were back in session pre-American lockdown, I found myself in a situation of opportunity. I had been placed in a class that I had already completed. There was no work for me to accomplish, and the proctor of the class, it was Math Lab, happened to be both the teacher for pre-calculus, but also her own elective class, known as Introduction to Japanese. Every day, I'd come in asking my teacher questions about Japan and the Japanese language, as she had worked abroad as an English teacher for a short time. My ambition was growing with my appreciation for the language and the culture of Japan. I knew it was time for me to follow up on my New Year's resolution, and it was time to learn Japanese. I started independently, utilizing Duolingo to learn one of the multiple alphabets in Japanese, hiragana. Every day in the early hours of the morning, I would come into class speaking basic sentences and vocabulary words such as sushi or emoji into my phone and writing 1 to 10 in hiragana. And I was even learning how to write my name and the names of my peers. Eventually, there came a point where my teacher surprised me with various learning materials, including a textbook called Reading Japanese. This was such a pivotal moment to me because now I was able to learn how to write the characters I was reading in the proper order and direction. The proper stroke order, more specifically. I was learning the importance of diacritic markings, and I was finally able to read basic sentences in the other alphabet in Japanese, katakana. I even brought all of these materials with me to Jamaica for my humanitarian endeavors. Life was good, and everything was moving slowly, but something stood out to me. Despite my days of studying, I was unorganized. My memorization of some sentences was faulty, and I wasn't really growing my vocabulary in any meaningful way. As soon as I realized this, a certain virus had finally caused the entire world to pause. I didn't know what to do. School wasn't going to come back in session, and I wasn't going to be able to further my learning of Japanese. Everything was falling apart, and I was losing grip on reality and slowly coming to notice that maybe this whole concept of learning a whole language in this year just won't happen. I no longer had the guidance of someone who's able to understand much more Japanese than me. I no longer had the polite corrections to my pronunciation of certain terms, and I, most importantly, didn't have anyone to check my work and verify its accuracy. But then, I realized something. I have all the information and tools I need right in front of me to continue my endeavors to learn this language, although slower. My teacher let me keep the textbook, the materials she provided, and I was fortunate enough to remember to bring everything with me as opposed to leaving it all in my locker. Though the most valuable resource of all was probably the one you're using to watch or listen to this video, the internet. Through the internet, I found various channels like Abroad in Japan, that Japanese guy Yuta, and someone who taught me something that is the basis behind this video, Nobita from Japan. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I haven't watched a whole lot of Nobita's content, but the one video I have watched managed to gain my utmost respect for this man and his attempts at helping foreigners understand the proper way to learn Japanese. Because I don't want to get a hit on my channel for copyright infringement, I'll go ahead and summarize the video. Basically, the video explains that Japanese, obviously, isn't like a Western language. Not only does the culture differ immensely, but so does the language's script, its sounds, and even its rules. Nobita explains that the best way to learn Japanese, though slow, is by thinking in Japanese. He elaborates by providing a graphic and an explanation about how it's a longer process to hear a word, translate it, then respond, than it is to simply hear the word and gain the association. Japanese as a language has many terms with meanings that don't translate perfectly into English, similar to how Spanish doesn't have an exact word for fun, at least according to my Spanish teacher. The language is also extremely context-based, and let me explain that. Now, I'm not an expert in Japanese in any way, but I did learn this information from Yuta in his free courses that he sends out to those who subscribe to his email list. And no, this is not sponsored. The term gohan taberu roughly means, do you want to eat lunch? However, if you were to take the term gohan and put it into Google Translate, it translates directly into rice. Without taberu, which means to eat, gohan has a completely different meaning than what you would be led to believe. But back on the previous topic. Long story short, Nobita's video, linked in the description below, basically explains that it's more efficient to learn Japanese as you would learning your first language than it is to learn a word and translate its meaning. Japanese does not perfectly translate into English. All of the English marketing memes that you can find online are a perfect example of that exact issue. Nobita's explanation of how to learn Japanese gave me an idea, and it's one that the weeb community is stereotypically memed for. I am trying to learn Japanese by watching anime without the subtitles. Now, I know it sounds crazy, stupid even, and trust me, it is. But the thing is that it works. You don't need to speak a language to get the idea of what's happening in a scene based on body language and facial expressions, and I'm gonna give you an example of this, which I tested scientifically by watching an anime's first episode unsubbed, and this anime I had never even heard of until I started watching it. Here's my comprehensive summary of episode 1 of New Game. So this is gonna be extremely watered down, but Episode 1 of New Game is about a girl named Aoba Suzukaze, who got a job at a gaming company to be known as Eagle Jump. Though I couldn't follow any of the conversations due to my lack of vocabulary, I was able to realize that Aoba was super excited to have this job, and she's a super apologetic person. Like, seriously guys. She apologizes profusely for every little thing. Episode 1, as I understood it, was basically laying down the foundation. She works here. These are her coworkers and friends. Her boss is someone she idolizes for her integral role in the development of her favorite game, Fairy Story. The episode can be split into 2 parts. Part 1, trying to meet everyone and make friends, and Part 2, going to lunch and forgetting her badge. That explanation was seriously oversimplified, but it was extremely relatable. After the group went out to eat, there was a realization that Aoba needs her badge to get in and out of the office. Though, after getting her badge made, she, relatably, forgets it after running outside for something briefly. The episode wraps up with the end of her first work day. She's going to bed, tossing and turning, and exclaiming her joy over and over again, getting to work for her dream company, when she gets called by someone. I wasn't able to follow the phone conversation, but it seemed almost like a check-in, someone asking how it went, and that's my summary of episode 1. After watching this episode, I was able to pick out some of the most commonly used words that I didn't know prior and give my own definitions based on how they were used, when they were used, and how frequently. This experiment is still in progress, admittedly. I've only just started. I'm by no means super deep in the rabbit hole of Japanese as a language, but at the same time, I'm still learning the language in my own way. Now, at this point, you might be asking, what was the point of this video? And to that I respond, I'm not sure. I felt like this would be necessary for me to share with my viewers that it is possible to take these steps. Though tedious, it's still possible. Taking on a whole new language is nothing to scoff at, and despite the fact that you'll find channels all over the place saying, "I'll teach you Japanese in 1 month," the reality is you can't jam 6 months of information into your head within the span of a single month. Plus, I mean, it's stupid expensive for such an endeavor. Have you ever looked at those channels? Anyone who understands basic physics knows that everything has a limited capacity, and when that capacity is exceeded, the contents being held within the container will spill all over the place. Trust me, you can test this one out right now with a glass of water. Everyone learns in their own way, and in reality, the only best method to learn something is your best method. Find what works for you. That being said, of course, the recording's done when the background clicks are done. But this video is already very long-winded, and it's going to be a hell of an editing job, so I'm gonna bring it to a close here. Don't let someone else tell you that your method of learning something is wrong, and don't be afraid to try new methods. This idea applies with just about everything, and I figure that that's a good message to leave you all off with. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. This is a new kind of content for me, and I'm trying really hard to try and realize what kind of content you guys want. If you want to go ahead and follow me on Twitch, I am far more active on there at the moment, and if you would like to see more content from me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a comment on my channel page. You can go ahead and join my Discord as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and Xander's out. Peace.